Hello and welcome to You Asked For It. I am your host, Ann Page. Today I have a very special guest, a native of Central Maine, Kelsey Cavanagh, the very lovely and beautiful and radiantly healthy Kelsey. Thank you for being my guest today, Kelsey. Now tell me, where are you from originally in Central Maine?
Thank you so much, Anne, for inviting me here, and I'm really happy to be here today. And I want to thank everyone who's tuning in and receiving this transmission today on the television. And it's a really wonderful thing you're doing for the community here. And we're right here in Bath, and I am from this area. I grew up in Phippsburg, and I went to high school at Morse, and I spent 23 years of my life right here.
Well, you know, we had a conversation the other day, and you told me that at the very beginning of your life, you were living in a very wooded, secluded, beautiful, nature-filled area in Phippsburg. And I think you said about around the age of 8 years old, something unusual began to happen to you. What happened to you at that age, Kelsey?
Thank you for asking. Yeah, you know, they say everything in life happens for a reason, and oftentimes it takes much time and hindsight to really have an understanding for why things happen to us in our life. But when I was about 8 years old, my body started to show a lot of signs of distress, and I began to experience physical pain and different symptoms and warning signs in the physical body that presented as illness or disharmony in the body.
And so how did that envelop you, your life? What happened from that point forward?
Well, from that point forward, my life became a series of questions around seeking health in the physical body, and it seemed like the more that I sought after physical health, the more I went down a rabbit hole of disease and disharmony.
And it took you how many years before you got a diagnosis of your condition?
It took 5 years of going and visiting doctors, pediatricians at that time because I was a child. 5 years. And then after 5 years, they gave me a diagnosis after many tests and diagnostic processes.
And what was the diagnosis that you received?
The diagnosis that I received was Crohn's disease.
And that must have been an incredible trauma at such an early age. I mean, it had to interrupt your education and your social life and everything about your childhood.
It really did. It became my entire life, was seeking health in the physical body, strength, comfort. And it was really interesting to look back upon that desire to receive answers for something presenting in the body, and then upon receiving answers, actually finding more disharmony from that. And it was really interesting to see that unfold.
How did you cope with that, Kelsey? It had to be incredible.
Yeah, you know, it was really incredible. It was an incredible time in my life. I coped with it by listening to others, really taking the advice of doctors and my family, but it seemed all of the people who were giving me advice really hadn't had a similar experience in their life. And also looking back upon that, it's very interesting to me.
And throughout this whole journey, you had a number of surgeries to correct your Crohn's disease, didn't you?
Yes.
And how many surgeries did you have?
I ended up having 14 surgeries on my intestines. And to elaborate a little bit, that diagnosis of Crohn's disease is a diagnosis saying that I had an autoimmune disease or disharmony, and that it was primarily attacking the digestive system. All of my symptoms were in the digestive system.
So you were a very young girl. You went down this dark rabbit hole with the medical community. You had this diagnosis. You had all these surgeries. You probably had a lot of substances that they gave you to cope with the pain. Was that a problem? Did that develop into a problem?
Yeah, that developed into a big problem in my life. And it began when I got the diagnosis. Upon receiving the diagnosis, the recommendation was to begin medication treatment. So I remember having a lot of accompanying anxiety, insomnia, all of these things that were said to be caused by this physical disease, but now looking back, I see it could have been other things. But in the treatment of a physical disease, as we understand it in our culture, the recommendation was, okay, here, take medication to relieve your physical pain. Here, take a pill to help you sleep at night. Here, take a pill to get rid of your anxiety. And that began when I was 13. So I didn't really know much about it. I was learning as I experienced, and I didn't really even feel like I had the time to stop and think about it or question. It was just me putting my trust in my doctors and my family.
You were so young. I mean,
Yeah.
at that age, you don't question. You take the advice of elders, and that's what you did. But so ultimately, it led you down this dark rabbit hole. You had addiction, you had pain, you had surgeries. How did you climb out of it?
I'm glad you asked that question, because it's really important to me in this journey to have learned the power of our recreation of our past. And it's very important to acknowledge where we've been and continue to get a deeper understanding for why things happen in our lives, because it's those obstacles that really become our greatest teachers in life and help us grow on all levels. And it was through the process of physical pain and trauma and getting to know my body in a very intimate way that many people don't, but also this is a journey that I know many people share. A lot of people can empathize with physical pain or disease or long-term illness or degenerative illness, and also substance abuse, addiction, because all of these medications, they come with a heavy burden and a heavy side effect, and they may be treating something in the physical, but they affect us on all levels, including the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual.
The spiritual. But today you're a very spiritual person. Tell my viewing audience about your spiritual journey and what happened.
Okay, yes. So to get back to that question, you know, I see how something entering into the physical realm so deeply brought me ultimately to a spiritual connection. And I finally got to a point in my life when I was in my early 20s where I really couldn't go on anymore. I was like really depressed, really disheartened, and doubtful of my entire existence and the existence of the world as I saw it. I was like, this is not the type of life that I feel I'm destined to live, and there has to be more than this. So that led me on a journey seeking to discover something that could truly help me heal and truly help me find balance. And that led me to go on a journey of complete sobriety and detoxification. And in that process, I asked for guidance. You know, I asked my inner self, I asked my higher self, I asked the questions within, and also to all the people around me, help me on this journey find where I'm meant to be. And primarily I started practicing yoga and meditation. And this is a sacred art and a sacred teaching that comes from India, and it comes from the scriptures, the Vedas. And this powerful Vedic teaching is pretty much a journey into the self. So we're using meditation as a tool to journey into the mind. We're using breath as a tool to journey into the spirit, and we're using the asana or the physical postures to journey into the body. And the word yoga in and of itself means to yoke or to unify. So we're taking these elements and we're bringing some unification holistically to the human being. So no longer, like with Western medicine, is it just focusing on the physical or maybe just the psychological, but we're looking at the mental awareness and the mental consciousness as a being in and of itself, and the spirit as a being, and the physical body as a being and a functionality, and combining them all together to find total harmony. So that was really the beginning of kind of this door opening up, and through that practice, so many different teachings started to come through, and many invitations and opportunities to sit with very wise individuals, masters at many different philosophies and practices, and it just
It's
started
true.
to
You've
blossom.
studied all over the world with some
Yeah.
great masters. You've been to the Amazon rainforest. Tell us about some of your journeys.
Okay, the Amazon I would love to talk about.
Okay.
So I can tie this into the idea of medicine. And we have this idea of medication treating ailments, but most medications that are discovered in laboratories and produced by pharmaceutical companies are inspired by the molecular structure of plants and the interaction that human beings have with these plants. And this type of healing practice goes back deep into our ancestry, before the Industrial Revolution, before the modernization of healthcare. So the plants have always been there to support us. They're our allies, they're our companions, and they're really the true healers that come from the earth. So on this journey, once I started practicing yoga, I began to meet a lot of people who were herbalists or Ayurvedic doctors or Chinese doctors, and they all had a lot to say about the healing powers of plants and this path of natural medicine. So on the path of natural medicine and starting to learn more about plants myself, I met an elder from the Amazon, from one of the indigenous tribes there, and I ended up working with him and learning from him, and then ended up receiving an invitation to actually go to his village and spend about a month down there and witness his way of life and actually see what it meant to be connected to these forces and these energies that live in that vibrant rainforest. And some of the parts of the rainforest are unadulterated, they're untouched, but this is a big reason why I went there as well, to learn the truth of what's happening and really learn what's at stake if we lose these lineages and these teachings, and we lose the ability to have these plants vibrant on our planet, because they hold so much for us and what we truly need. So I went down there to see it for myself and to learn for myself, and that was just the beginning of what I can tell you will be a long relationship with that part of the world.
That's amazing. And you also went on to become a yoga teacher, didn't
Yes.
you? And you traveled the world to study yoga. Tell me some of the places you've been.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Well, I studied a lot in the States, and I have not yet been to India. I plan to go there and to continue my study of yoga. But I most recently went to Bali, Indonesia, and I was involved deeply in the yoga community there. I was actually doing some work at a yoga ashram, and the owner of that is also a yoga teacher and involved in community yoga projects. So I was there learning and sharing, and I must say that all of these areas of study and practice, I'm deeply humbled to be involved in them and to be expanding within these communities, and to consider myself a teacher. I don't like to put that label on myself, but I do really love to share the knowledge that I've gained through my experience, because I've seen how big of an impact it's made in my life. So anything that I've learned and I know, I willingly share with anyone who is seeking that. So when I am traveling, whenever I get the invitation to guide an individual or a group of people, I always will say yes.
Well, since you've been here in Maine, visiting with your parents, you've been very active in the elder community. And I had the privilege of attending one of your yoga classes that you taught to an elder community. And it was exceptional to see you work with those people and how they loved you. And just to see the light turn on inside them from the breath exercises and the stretching that you did, it was extraordinary. And I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. It was really great to have you there. And it's always a gift when people are seeking this connection, because that's truly what it is. I feel like a lot of the problems that we see in our society today and our culture today is due to a really strong disconnection that's apparent, a disconnection to the awareness of ourselves, a disconnection to the earth, a disconnection to our families, and a disconnection to our community and our worlds. So people can live in a very narrow scope of what life is to them and not really be going outside of themselves or deep within themselves, just kind of living these surface existences. So whenever we can breathe together, whenever we can use our voices to create something positive together, whether it's through song, through a conversation, whenever we can join our hands together and create something beautiful, it's that's exactly where I want to be. So,
So I see you brought something today. Now, when you taught that yoga class to the elder community, one of the attendees gave you a gift, and it's this bowl. Could you demonstrate it for us and tell us what it is?
sure, I'll open up with saying what this is. So this is a Tibetan singing bowl, and this is a tool, a musical instrument, and it's using resonance or vibration, and it's used specifically in meditation or chanting mantra. And it's said in the Tibetan mythology that these bowls are very powerful in the way that they can create a resonance that can connect us to heightened states of awareness. Now, where that awareness may take us, that's a very personal journey to the individual using the instrument or the tool. But if we take a moment of silence and we allow ourselves to, sometimes, if you want, you can close your eyes. If you're listening, you can close your eyes or watch. But just to really tune in, to quiet the mind and experience the resonance of this sacred instrument. So I'll chime it 3 times, and you'll feel the vibration building, and then we'll just allow it to dissipate, and then we'll go from there.
Could sort of feel it in your bones, don't you? That was a lovely gift she gave you. So I wanted to ask you one question, and I did in the pre-interview, I asked you this question, you elaborated on it, and it just touched me for days. And so the question I wanted to ask you is, if you could make a statement to our viewing audience, what would you say to them?
Thank you for asking that. Every time that I'm invited to share, I really hope I can leave an impact upon whoever it is that I'm sharing with. And if you're watching right now and you're listening to this conversation and hearing about these alternative ways, if it resonates within you, or if you're at any point in your life and you feel a disharmony and you want something more or different from your life, I encourage you to seek out whatever it is that your heart is calling for. That's what I did in my journey. It took a point of me really reaching a point in my life where I needed change. And it can be many reasons why you need change. But generally, if there's an overwhelming sense of unhappiness or disharmony, or it could be even deeper like depression, we should ask ourselves, we should take that time in solitude and ask our inner selves and ask that voice of reason, that sense of intuition that we all have, sit with ourselves, say, what is it that I truly need? Sometimes at that point in my life, my answer was, I don't know, but something. So I asked for help, or I was offered help, and I took the help. And there's so many people around. There's all of these people who are angels in disguise, or blessings in disguise, just waiting to be called upon. So as soon as we ask that question and we seek that transformation, we'll be opened up to whatever it is that we need. So just continue to seek out whatever it is that you're desiring, and I assure you, you will continue to see the blessings and move forward towards a life of harmony and happiness and health and your highest purpose in this life.
That's wonderful. Kelsey, you brought your guitar, and I would be so thrilled if you'd sing a song for our audience. Would you do that?
Sure.
Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Okay.
And you might want to tell us about it.
Yeah, before I play, I will let you know, this song that I'm going to share today is a song that is passed around and shared in many circles, many gatherings all over the world. This particular song is in English, and there's songs in many different languages, sacred ancient languages, or today modern languages. And this song particularly is connecting with the element of water. So water is the element that is the primordial force of life. Without water, we would not have life. So if we're seeking deep healing, which this song is for deep healing, we want to call upon the power of water. We can infuse our intentions into the molecules of water that we take in and also that are already within us, and we can activate them through song and vibration. And also there's a Sanskrit mantra in here in the song as well, which is calling upon the forces of healing.
Great.
I just close my eyes and the earth is carried away by the river. I just close my eyes and the earth is carried away by the river. What's left behind I cannot say. It's just the sound of the water. What's left behind I cannot say. It's just the sound of the water. I just close my eyes and the earth is carried away by the river. I just close my eyes and the earth is carried away by the river. What's left behind I cannot say. It's just the sound of the water. What's left behind I cannot say. It's just the sound of the water. Om Namah Shivaya. 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 I just close my eyes and the earth is carried away by the river. I just close my eyes and the earth is carried away by the river. What's left behind I cannot say. It's just the sound of the water. What's left behind I cannot say. It's just the sound of the water.
Thank you so much. Kelsey Cavanagh, my beautiful guest today. Thank you so much, you native daughter of Maine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Belinda Kennedy, for the wonderful pet portraiture. Thank you, everyone in my viewing audience, for watching. Sweet dreams, everyone. Thank you so much.